Oh, you baby, the floor is yours for the next 40, 45 minutes, pal.
Right on. Uh, Good afternoon or evening for some of you guys. My name is Chris, and I'm an alcoholic, and I have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. But I still don't know how to tell time zones, so it's almost really late to this meeting. But thankfully, a few of you had my phone number and were able to text me. So I apologize. I was working out, so I ran in here and I'm all sweaty, and I like to pray and meditate for 45 minutes before I go into one of these. So it's less of my ego and more of what God wants to come out of my mouth. So as we were starting this meeting, I'm just sitting here praying because I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. So if I'm correct on the topic, it's access through God through the 12 steps. Um, I truly don't believe in the word relapse. I used to go around telling people that I was a chronic relapser because I came into the rooms around 19 years old. I'd get a sponsor, do the 1, 2, 3 waltz. Sometimes I'd make it to step 9, but some of those amends are really difficult. So, I would take what I wanted and leave the rest. And, I was powerless. My addiction, I would just eventually go back to it. I would trick myself by staying dry for 6 months, a year, and then next thing you know, I'm like pounding my hand on the bar again, thinking, how did I get here? And almost like Bill's story, I might as well get good and drunk then, right? I watched people making supreme sacrifice in their addiction, and I really related to Bill's story because it's like when the market crashed and, people are jumping from the towers of high finance, and he's like, I wouldn't jump. Yeah, me neither. If there's still beer around, I'm gonna go drink, and but I couldn't identify with Bill for a long time, and I think that was the problem. I almost feel that I would get lost in the forwards, and it felt like it was really dry. Thankfully, my home group BBA out of San Diego presented this message in a way where the book was no longer a flimsy read. It came alive to me. And from the forwards on, actually from the first page, we flipped open the cover page and how many men and women have recovered with the ED. I had never seen that ED. I thought this was recovery, right? I didn't know what being recovered was. A woman who's very near and dear to me, she told me that I was suffering from untreated alcoholism. Well, what is that? And she spoke of the spiritual malady. I had no idea of that page 44, 45, and 64. Of what is that? And I understood that I was mentally and bodily ill, obviously. I have the mental obsession. I obsess over liquor and outside issues constantly. And when I intake those things, I never reach a point of satisfaction. I always want more. It seems like I could never get inebriated enough, right? And it that would go on sometimes a day, 2 days, 6 months, a year, and it usually took something like incarceration or something of momentous um, impact in my life for me to put the drink down. And and as I read through with my sponsor Bill's story, and Bill's trying to convince Lois that men conceive, their best their best thoughts while drunk. I thought, yeah, I used to tell my partner stuff like that too. Like, what makes me good in my career, what makes me tick, I'm really artistic. I used to tattoo and draw a lot, and I could never get in the mood. Music, artwork, whatever. I could never get in the mood unless I was drunk. But if I'm drunk, you give me some paintbrushes or some lead pencils, and I just go crazy for like 16 hours. And I got ADD, so I'm like, oh, you cannot stop. My brain is just this flywheel of madness, and that momentum doesn't stop unless I drink, and it slows it down where I can manage one thing at a time. So, I didn't know what being agnostic was. I didn't know. I grew up Irish Catholic, and I thought I knew who God was, but obviously I didn't because I never implemented him in my character defects. I never asked God to help me with these things. I always tried to take the control myself. And really, that's me not having an understanding of step one, you know. And that step one, admitting that I was powerless, is something that in the past I'd have someone take me through the work and they'd say, "Are you powerless?" I go, "Yeah." And they go, "Okay, on to step two." This time I probably spent almost 2.5 months on all the Roman numerals and then 44 pages of step one. It's the biggest part of the step work. And once I was really able to understand that I'm powerless, without some kind of divine help, then I don't think I was ever going to get this spiritual experience. But it doesn't understanding it doesn't do anything. It took work to get there. It took making amends to get there. It took a lot of service work to get there. It's not like I just, okay, yeah, I need help, God. Well, it's almost like that part of the book where it says faith without works is dead, which is also in another book I read out of the book of James. But it's I was really able to sit there and think, okay, so God will give me a ladder or a rope to get out of my hole, but I still got to climb up it. I still have to walk up that ladder, and that ladder, I would like visualize the 12 steps, like the staircase to get out of this hole I'm in. And it's almost like I never wanted to take anyone's advice that I was powerless because I always had a house, I always had a good career. I was self-sufficient mostly. There's a couple times in life where I had to like live with in-laws or borrow money off somebody because I just sank my finances so low with just bad decisions. And so to admit that I was powerless, I would see more financial success in my life than in the people around me. So I thought, I'm not powerless. I'm good. I just make some mistakes sometimes that others don't. I was successful in some areas, but I was like really not successful in other areas. Like, I don't think most people wake up on a Wednesday and you're looking around and you realize you're in county jail. Maybe the only time people understand that is in rooms like this. And when it says that we are people that will not normally mix, I've met law enforcement that have lost their careers and ended up incarcerated. And so it's just like, I don't try to talk about the extremes of that part of my life because I'd like to stay more in the solution. But I really related to so many people, and I just didn't understand how much work was involved in the service department. And BBA kind of on the first page in, they have us draw the circle and triangle in there, and they explain unity, service, and recovery. And then there's a note that says if AA is the meetings, the 12 steps outlined in the big book, and working with others, taking them through the steps, where are you in AA? And so whenever I have a sponsee and he's kind of balking at something, I like to flip open to that page and kind of just ask this person, grade themselves, where are you in your circle and triangle? If you had to look at that circle and triangle and the fellowship, the step work, and service, what would you grade yourself in those three areas, three separate grades? And I know for myself, I'm always lacking one of them, right? Or I'm overdoing in one. There's always somewhere where I can find my truth right there. And I had never worked the service side ever. I had went around telling people that AA doesn't work. It's a cult. I've tried it so many times. I just keep relapsing. I blamed it on you guys. It must be the program's fault. And someone asked me one day, how many people have you ever sponsored? Zero. So, I mean, but I put some chairs away, I never cleaned any ashtrays because by the time I hit the rooms, people weren't smoking in them. They smoke outside of them. So I picked up some butts, but, it's, I truly feel that just like in Bill, when he said in certain trials and low spots that working with others would save the day, is the meat and potatoes of my program today. I'll read the bedevilments on page 52. And when it gets to the part where the feeling of uselessness, I felt useless my entire life. And I have a purpose now. I always considered myself like Chris, the construction worker, Chris, the biker. I never considered myself Chris, the good husband, Chris, the sponsor, Chris, the man who has integrity. I didn't even know what that word truly meant. I learned in this program. And, I don't classify myself as Chris, the sponsor, but it is the main thing I do. This year, I was able to take almost a full year off of my main occupation and sponsor full time. And there's been workshops and just a lot of really just lovely stories that came out of this year. And going into next year, I'm going to have to cut down on how much I sponsor, only due to my work schedule is going to be greatly changing. But it was just such a beautiful opportunity to go daily to the Alano Club, daily work with these guys and people I met and network with, get to go to like and do panels and stuff. I do a lot of H&I stuff, which I don't really know how I truly feel about it. I like to stay in the meat and potatoes of the program, and sometimes H&I, that's just panel work. You go in there and just get the message out. But I think I get more out of service cracking this book open with someone. And I know a lot of people have stipulations. They don't like Zoom or this or that. I got sponsored off of Zoom. Yeah, I met my sponsor in person. Wonderful man. But we had a good connection before we even met. Modem to modem or face to face, we can transmit this message. And it's that unconditional love that another man gave me that makes me do it for someone else. It's almost like I owe a debt to my sponsor, but it didn't come from him. So I can't pay it back to him. I have to pay it in another way. And for that, I think one alcoholic can help another alcoholic only because it's like, if you're paid, you're my therapist, you're my doctor, do you really care or are you just collecting a check? You haven't been through with like what I've been through, so how do you know? Now, when another man sitting in front of me explained some of his fifth, and I thought, wow, me too. I thought and felt just like that, or I've done that. Then I could relate. When another man has taken time out of his career and his family and his busy schedule to sit down and read this book that he's read 1,000 times with me, I thought, wow, this person truly cares about me. And so that's what I try to give back to the guys I work with. The problem is sometimes it depresses me because I take on too much responsibility, which I shouldn't. My only job is to be a hollow bone for God to reach through me. And I'm just here to present the message. And if someone doesn't feel like doing their daily reprieve, they don't feel like reading 84 through 88, they don't feel like doing that inventory, all day working a step 10, watching themselves and then doing the inventory at the end of their day and starting their day with that inventory again, but they're having continuous problems. And I'm giving them the answer and what can I do? I think I would bang my head against the wall thinking that it reflects on me. Like this person's going to go around and be like, Chris is not a good sponsor. So what? It says we tried to carry this message. Having had a spiritual awakening, we tried to carry this message. It didn't say we were 100% successful with each person, but I fall in love with these men that I work with. And I won't work with someone that I think is not going to try or is going to fail. So every single person I work with from day one, I'm like, I get so excited. Oh, they're going to get this. They're going to have such a good life and God's going to love them up. And then I watch them go out and drink. Unfortunately, I watch some of them die. I spoke a few days ago at a meeting and I had a shirt that said fentanyl killed all my friends. And I normally only wear that to an NA and I wore it to an A. It made people cry. And I thought, maybe I shouldn't wear this shirt anymore because it's just it hits so deep on some of those heartstrings. And it's kind of, I kind of wear it sometimes, I guess, to get a reaction out of people, to raise awareness that there's stuff out there. That stuff wasn't even around in my addiction. Thankfully, if you put something in front of me, I was able to consume it and it didn't kill me. I got really lucky that it didn't, and but I truthfully, my ism was mainly alcohol. As soon as I would drink, it's almost like any rational decision was just, I don't know where it went, but it was gone. And I felt that I was special. I was an exception to consequences of life and all these rules, right? And I really feel that once I was able to identify, and Bill's story. I mean, I'm a biker construction worker who's in and out of county jails. I had been arrested on a murder charge and when I was in my youth, and I went to juvenile hall. And it's like I thought, like I'm whatever the low bottom feeder is in life. That's what I am. I came from a low bottom feeding family. I was uh I was born in what is that place where they manufacture powder? What's that called? A meth lab? It's like kind of. I apologize bringing up outside issues, but that's where I grew up in one of those. I didn't know that's what it was until at school. They bring in all these beakers and things, and I realized that that's where I live. Um, and so I just thought this is my life. Riding Harleys and drinking beer and hanging out at the bars is my life. And what do I have in common with a stockbroker, college educated, successful man from New York? Military man. I don't. And then right around the time when this guy, he's working at the farm, but he's trying to get inside info on General Electric, or Bill W he's cruising upstate New York with his motorcycle and his sidecar with his wife. That sounds like me taking my wife on some wacky adventure. And this poor woman this little 5'3", beautiful lady that I met. I met her in the bar, and, and I pulled her out of the bar, and she follows me. She believes in me. Like out of all the good men you could have believed in, she believed in me. And every time I failed, she gave me the courage to fight again. And she would stand by me every time. And I thought, dude, Bill is dragging this lady on these crazy adventures. That's what I do with mine. That's what I do with my wife. My wife is my lowest. Like she just, no matter how low I sank, this girl's just like, you can do it, keep going. And I remember one time we were flipping over couch cushions looking for change, just so we could buy ourselves a burrito that day. That's how poor we were at one point. Now, like, we have a house that's like, it's huge. It's too big. I need a smaller place. My wife will come out front and I'm looking at the house. She's like, what are you doing? Come inside. I said, this is our place. I can't believe it. What? What? And but the thing is, as I learned more about Bill, and right around the time where it says he got in a fight with a taxi cab driver and lost his job, I currently just had a year of doing AA full time because I had gotten into a quarrel with someone at work. If I don't work this program, those character defects come back. That ego, that anger. I'm just as addicted to anger than I am alcohol. I'm just as addicted to my pride as I was alcohol. I'm powerless to those things. My lust, I won't go too deep into it in a mixed meeting, but I had told my sponsor, like, hey man, I think I got to go to SA. And he said, BBA helps all addictions. And I reworked those steps and I laid my lust at God's feet. And I don't watch those movies that I probably shouldn't watch anymore. I don't objectify my wife in certain ways that I was in my past anymore. My sex ideal that I was able to write in step 4, like some people got a really elaborate one where I kind of feel like mine's kind of just short and maybe I should have put more work into my sex ideal. But my sex ideal was that I want to treat my wife the way I want a man to treat one of my daughters. And so when I'm going to experience something or I'm treating my wife a certain way, and it's not just sexual, it's on intimacy level. It's on so much more than just sex, right? And when I truly sit there and think, would this behavior, let's say we're arguing, let's say I come home and I'm like all happy and my wife's just mad. Maybe I forgot, this is a real thing that's going on right now. Maybe I forgot the giant trampoline that's in front of my house. In front. I guess it should go in the backyard, but me being so excited, I put it together in the front yard for the kids for Christmas. It's in the front yard. And maybe I keep forgetting at the end of my day to take it apart. I was actually going to work out and take it apart before the meeting because I thought this was 7 p.m. PST, but it's 7 p.m. EST, 7:30. And so the trampoline's still out there. So I come home and she's mad. Now, I can be defensive and be mad too. But if I really have that sex ideal and I really truly take it to God that I'm willing to grow into it and she's mad, I'm able to look at her and say, hey, I understand that I've been procrastinating and that I didn't do it. And I understand you're upset about it. I'm really sorry. Can you please make me a cup of coffee and I'm going to log into this meeting. I hope I'm not too late and I love you and I'll do it after. And she looked at me and said, okay. There's no fight. There's no big war, And in the back years ago, something as simple as that, there could have been cops called to the house. The kids are all scared because mom and dad are elevated voices. We don't have to put our children through that anymore. My kids do pretty well as a gift of this program. They got good grades, they're healthy. And I'm able to take things, the tools that this program gives me, something as simple as a sex ideal, and just work it into my daily life. And it's I suffered from a lot of womanizing, and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's an insecurity or just something guys do, right? Because I wasn't the kid that got any girls when I was younger at all. And then I get older and I have this beautiful, wonderful wife, and here I am getting phone numbers and talking to women. And there was never really, like when Bill says there was never, he said extreme drunkenness helped from real infidelity. He doesn't say there wasn't infidelity, he says real infidelity. And I wonder, I try to read through the lines, I wonder, was there, wasn't there? So me, I just was not ever good enough to seal the deal. So it wasn't, the intent was there. And that's where the cheating is to me. If I intended on getting someone's phone number, that's already cheating. If I have to delete or hide something, that's already cheating. My rule today with my wife is if I'm ever conversating with the opposite sex, whatever the caliber of that conversation, if I would feel uncomfortable having that same conversation in front of my wife, then it's inappropriate. I don't even care what we're talking about. I don't care if it's tone of voice, body language, whatever. Even the amount of time. What if I'm putting so much time into conversating with somebody, but that could be time spent with my wife? That could be intimacy or time. And then time is something I never have. I'm always sponsoring, I'm always going to meetings, I'm always contracting jobs and doing this. And then there's almost no time for me and my wife. So I had to devote a day where there's this phone's turned off. No phone, no AA. My sponsees know, hey, call Chris tomorrow. Unless it's an emergency, yeah, call me. If it's an emergency, call. But that's time where we sit down and watch that Netflix series that she wants to watch, or we go to dinner. We just sometimes just sit on our porch and talk. So what? Whatever, and it's my idea of best friend, right? My best friend was always some guy get off of work and me and him are texting, like, we're gonna go drink beer after work. All along, my best friend was at home waiting for me. We got matching rings. Well, no, hers is more expensive than my ring, but we have rings. Hers is shinier than mine. But the I don't know if I almost feel that I don't know where I'd be without that kind of love. I don't know where I'd be without my best friend by my side, always encouraging me to go do battle again when I feel broke and lost. And when I came into this program, she didn't want nothing to do with me. We were going to divorce. We were going to divorce because my attitude was just so terrible. I thought I'm a big man. I pay all the bills and blah, 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 blah. But I treated her like crap and I made her feel subservient to me at all times. We'd go out in public and I'd tell people, she's just a stay-at-home mom. I pay everything. How dare I? She takes care of my three beautiful children. And when I lost my job this year, she's working two jobs and she started a small business. The tables turned, and she's been such a huge, huge influential person in my life to keep the wheels running. And so sitting here thinking of that, I would never have been able to see that. I would never be able to see past my own inflated ego if it wasn't for this program, you know. And when I watched Bill, I thought, like, Bill's being a piece of crap. He's living at his in-laws. He's not working no more. He's bootlegging liquor, And I'm like, dang, what a mooch this guy is. And then he's stealing from his wife's purse. I'm like, oh man, so many similarities there. The guy, the stockbroker from New York that I couldn't identify with, is exactly like me, just born in a different era. He really is. On page 13, Bill describes his process going through the steps right after Ebby came to him. And, even Ebby's story coming into Bill, I just couldn't believe how much divine intervention, him getting OR'd by Judge Graves and being able to work with the Oxford group and to carry this to Bill. Where would all of us be without it? I'm not someone that puts Bill up on some kind of spiritual pedestal. Yeah, he's someone I truly love and respect that I've never met because I got a pretty good life for a program that he helped design. But really, in Bill's step 3, he says he humbly offered himself to God as he understood him. And he says he placed himself unreservedly. I got really hung up on that word, unreservedly. Do I place myself unreservedly under the care of God? And the answer is no. That's why I continue to practice this program. Because sometimes I do try and take control of things. It's like I'm in the passenger seat. In step 3, I gave God complete control, right? But I keep leaning over trying to grab the wheel. And then the result is what you could think it would be with things. No, God either is or he isn't, right? What if I stop grabbing that wheel? My prayer life used to be, God, can you please protect my family? God, can you please protect my finances? God, this, and can you please? He's been doing that. He's been doing that. My prayer life now is, God, thank you for protecting my finances. God, thank you for this Christmas presents under my tree, food in my fridge, and the lights turn on in my house right now. God, thank you for my children not having any fatal illnesses throughout their youth growing up. My son is 17 years old and me and him just got done working out together. Like, we have a good relationship. I'm able to be present for those things. God, thank you for this program and people with enough humility that took time to help dust all the crap and junk off of me and help me become the man that I am today. For people to have the guts to say, hey, Chris, that's not okay. I do take things to my sponsor when they're pretty major, but I have men in my smaller group that I live with or live nearby that I network with. They're like, hey, dude, some guys found out that I haven't had a license in almost 20 years. I have company trucks, I insure things. I just don't have a license. I don't know. It got taken away in a high speed pursuit years and years and years ago, and I never got it. I don't get pulled over because I drive really nice. And one of my sober buddies is like, absolutely not. And now I'm going through the process of getting my license. I'm a 40-year-old man trying to get a California driver's license. Those are things where I'm being held accountable because iron sharpens iron, and I feel like my whole life, people, they would just agree with my bad behaviors or co-sign them. I have people that won't co-sign that stuff no more. They'll pull those covers and say, nope, you can't do that. You gotta do things right in life. And the only reason I'm having better results is because of the people that God's placed in my life. It's almost like my life's able to operate on a higher frequency when I place everything under God's care unreservedly. My step 4, I don't know why people balk at 4. 4 is like, I get to like point fingers at everybody, right? You, and you, and you, and this is how you affected me, and this is what you did. It's step 5, I balk. It's step 5 that if I can't work it out through a 10 and 11, I have to go back to quite a bit. Step 5, where I have to turn that mirror around, and tell you what I did. I mean, step 4 a little bit when I'm trying to figure out what my part is in some of these things, but step 5 is difficult for me. But without being honest in that 5th, how can I work that soul surgery in 6 and 7? Getting honest with another human being puts you in a state where you just feel so broken. You feel like it's out there. All your dirt's out there now. And it's like, now you're looking at it all. God, please take this away from me. Step 6 is like, you're getting ready for that surgery. You're fasting. You're getting the gown on. You're getting ready for the soul surgery. 7, it's gone. If you truly meant the step work all the way up to that point, it's gone. God will take it. And if you didn't, rework those steps back up to that point. You're missing something. You forgot to cross a T or dot an I somewhere. And 8, pretty nervous about 8 as I'm making this list because I realize I'm going to have to actually knock on some doors and make some phone calls. And I truly believe that my step 9 was a percentage. Those 9-step promises, I only would work maybe 30% of those amends, and then I'd only get 30% of those promises and then complain that this program doesn't work. I got one. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I do have one amends that I balked on a little bit, and just recently I started trying to make good on it. But it's I was always under this impression in mainstream AA, like these amends can just hang out there for 20, 30 years. I'll take care of them whenever. It says we shouldn't shrink at these amends. And then I like say, well, what if it's going to hurt me? No, it says hurt others. I am not another. Where does it say hurt me? Even at the cost of incarceration, I'm supposed to make these amends. I don't like incarceration. I think I did enough of it in my past. That's why I like this program, because I don't want to go back to the old life. And it doesn't even matter if I'm innocent or guilty. If all you beautiful people were sitting on a jury panel and I came in, I'm already guilty. Look at this guy. He did it, and I used all my get out of jail free cards already. And so the thing is I had to do some pretty scary things. I had to tell people things I did that they didn't even know about. And that was tough. And on a few of them, I was able to talk to my sponsor, or someone I like to refer to as my AA mom. And they kind of just gave me some courage and something to pray, a base to pray on before I went and did it. But truthfully, that relationship that I built in that daily inventory in my prayer life with my creator is what gave me the willingness to do those things. And afterwards, man, some people, like, they did shut the door on me, like, we don't care that you're sober now. We don't, oh, you're a good guy now. Well, we've been good people our whole lives, or whatever. And some of those relationships did get repaired and are pretty good. Like the person I was speaking about the whole first half of this talk, my wife. She was the last person I made an amends to. I don't know why she was last. She should have been first on the list, but she was last because it was the hardest one for me to make. And I don't think I cried that much since I was a child. And once I made the amends to her, it's just like I don't know. I think that's when we went from being married to being best friends. Like we started growing from there and doing things together. And it's uh it's really a release when we take care of some of those really difficult ones. It's like you're looking at this thing like, oh, it's impossible, and then you do it, you know. And I have a sponsee. I don't even know if he's in the meeting. He might be. And he had some petty theft, and we kind of came up with a number, and it was around 5,000, and it was to a big store, chain of stores. So he walked into a store, and we came up with this way. Actually, I didn't come up with it. I think my sponsor, and combination of talking to a few people, we came up with a method. And he goes to try to repay this amends, and they say, "Well, we can't pay it back. We can't call the cops on you. We can't accept your money. Like, so what can you do?" So he was able to ask this person to pick a charity out of a list of charities, and he was able to pay it back that way. And I thought that is so amazing. And to see the courage that this sponsee had to complete that amends, there was one I had out there that I was kind of just, you guys don't know about it. No one knows about it. Me and my sponsor had talked about it, but no one checked. No one's like, "Hey, Chris, did you make that amends yet?" And watching his courage make that amends, I don't want to be a hypocrite in this program. So I went and made one myself. And it was a very personal and private one that was very difficult to make because the person really loves me and didn't even know I did this. And I sat for like 45 minutes in my truck out front of this person's house. And I just started crying and praying, and I thought I was having a panic attack. And then I went and had this amends, and that amends, it's being made in payments, but it's going to be complete by mid next year. I was almost hoping, because the selfish part of me was like, they're going to be like, "Hey, you don't owe me that. Don't worry." No, they were like, "Yeah, pay it." They were like, "Yep, pay it." And that happens. We got to be willing to make those amends and make them complete. And that's why when I opened up this meeting and said I have recovered with an ED, you know, if I have these amends floating out there or whatever, maybe I'm in recovery. Being recovered means I completed something, and I'm recovered from the hopeless condition of my mind because I don't mentally obsess over the drink. And I don't have the allergy of the body. Anyone that hasn't had a drink in 72 hours doesn't. You know, what I really suffer from, and I continue to work the spiritual side of this program, is the spiritual malady. That spiritual malady, man, if I'm not in line with my higher power, which, so you guys know, was my Harley Davidson. When I first came in these rooms, my Harley Davidson was my higher power. You know what? My Harley Davidson's broke down all the time. So now I have a higher power that's I call him God, You guys, I don't care if people use spirit of the universe, creative intelligence. I heard a woman in a meeting one day, and she said she called her higher power Sky Daddy. And I don't put a monopoly on that. I do keep my family in church and stuff like that, and we love it. But that's for a different kind of meeting, And it's I don't know. I think that when Bill placed himself unreservedly under the care of God, he doesn't say when he felt like drinking, call his sponsor. He didn't call Ebby. Ebby relapsed on him. So what was he to do? Bill took his stuff to God. And then Bill was like, "Man, only I'm staying sober. What's going on?" And Lois had to point out, "Well, you're the one doing step work. You're the one taking these people through." So it was pretty much, he came to the realization that one alcoholic had to do this to another in order for the gift to work or for it to hold, right? We can get it temporarily. We could white knuckle it for a while. I met a man recently that has 43 years, and he's going through a dang divorce, and his kids hate him and all. Man, I don't want that. When I think of serenity, that's not what I want. When I was a child, I seen an older couple in their 80s walking down the beach holding hands, and they sat down and made cucumber sandwiches. And I remember thinking, man, that's what I want. That's true love right there. And so I always tell my wife we're going to eat cucumber sandwiches. She said they taste like crap. She don't want them. She said we can have burritos or something else. But, you know, I want to have good relationships with the people I love. I want to be able to add something beautiful to someone's life instead of add stress and pain in the stuff that I did my whole life. Like, we say the serenity prayer constantly, right? What does that truly mean to you? That word serenity is something that I'm like a serenity chaser, like I'm chasing that peace. And that's what replaced my addiction. My addiction was my solution. I drank because it felt good. I hear people like, oh man, it was so terrible. Man, I love drinking. I love it. I'd take a shot and a drink, and my eyes would glaze over, and then all the bullcrap come out of my mouth. All the stuff I wanted to be, but I wasn't. When this is who I am, and I really wasn't that man. I get to live the person I always pretended to be. I get to be today. I get to be that person today, and it doesn't. I don't have to lie about none of it. I still do. I'm guilty of telling some white lies sometimes, and they're more along the lines of like I'm so busy and I don't feel explaining to someone some situation, I'll tell a white lie. And then right away I'm like, hey, I don't know if other people do this, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I just lied to you. This is actually what happened. And they're like looking at me like now they don't even know what to believe, the first thing or the second thing you told them. But I'm able to have a platform where I'm able to write those things right away. And I think a white lie is kind of different because it's like I'm able to tell it because I don't think it's that big a deal. But if I work for God, God's my employer. It says that I'm the spearhead of his ever advancing creation. Am I supposed to go out there to promote lies? And not only that, some people are really anonymous. I am not. Every single person I network with knows I'm sober and I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. What kind of example am I setting for these rooms? I'm out there lying and bullcrapping people about everything. Attraction rather than promotion. Hey, I want to be like this guy, all tattooed and lying all the time. You know? So I do my best. I'm not 100% with it. I'm not 100% with anything. And I think that's where my spiritual malady is. I'm so full of fears and insecurities and things. And it's like whack-a-mole. God removes some of these character defects, boom, and then another one pops up. That one's gone, and this other one pops up. So there's always work to be done. I don't work these steps one time. I constantly go through the steps. And I'm able to experience the steps, and it's working, taking someone else through the steps. I never ask a sponsor to do something that I don't do myself. And I find my truth while I'm taking someone else through the work all the time. Or I feel so heavy about stresses on my life. Man, go work with someone on day one. Find out what they're going through. I don't want that again. All the relationship stuff and the family stuff and the financial stuff, the legal stuff. I do a lot of service work at treatment centers. Oh, man, I could go for days how much I disagree with treatment plans and look at your triggers and all whatever. That's for a different conversation. But these guys, I'll be talking to a guy and he has an ankle monitor on. I don't want that. I definitely don't want that again. They had one of those on my ankle for quite some time. I finally got it off. I don't want to put it back on. I had to cut my leather on my work boot so I could get my boot on my foot just to go to work, and I'm all scared when I shower that it might mess with it or I'll go back to jail or whatever, and it's I'm able to go freely where any other man can go, and it's because this message was able to be presented to me on a level that I could understand. And I don't know why I didn't get it with I've been a part of a lot of home groups. I've had a lot of beautiful people try to sponsor me, and somehow BBA turned his statements into questions, pausing on all these works, doing a questionnaire along with the work. It just fully immersed me in every line in every chapter up to page 103. And then after that, they stopped and I had to figure those things out on my own. Recently I got asked to talk on To the Wives, and I was like scared. I almost told him no because I've only read that chapter a couple times. And then I found out so much cool stuff. I found out that Bill had asked Ann Smith, Bob's wife, to write it. She turned him down. It's possible that Lois had some kind of resentment because he didn't ask her to write it, so he wrote it himself. And then I'm sitting there thinking, man, that's kind of I'm like Bill again. I wouldn't ask my wife either. I'm just gonna write it. I'm gonna tell you how my wife feels about me. And it just was it was a beautiful experience being able to do some research and read through in depthly in this book. And that kind of kicked me off where I'm like, okay, I don't read to the employers either that much. So let me go into that. And I did a whole night staying up, going down the rabbit. My wife comes out and I got all these sticky notes everywhere, and I'm researching Hank Parkhurst and I want to know everything about the guy, and it's I really feel that, I think every single person in this room, you have something to offer a newcomer. For me, a lot of times the guys I sponsored, they don't want the guy that doesn't say the F word or is clean cut. They want the guy with the beard and the tattoos and has a little bit of rough edge. But some people don't want the guy with the prison story and all that ego. Some people want the guy that's really clean cut and cleaned up, but had some really dark secrets, you know? And I think that every single person is tailored specifically to someone they could help. And I personally don't wait for someone to come up and ask me. Bill W. and Bob didn't do that. They went out and looked for guys. So when I go to a meeting and I see that look in someone's eye, I go and talk to them for a bit. That don't mean I sponsor everybody. Guys don't even know I'm interviewing them. When I'm talking to someone, I'm figuring out if they're a candidate that's going to be desperate enough to chase this solution like a drowning man. Because my time with my wife and my children is very valuable. And my wife, she loves that I'm a part of this program because she got her husband back. So she allows me to go out and sponsor and do all these things. A lot of my sponsees, I got extra rooms at my house. I got two sponsees living at my house that are now tenants of mine. We're able to do that during the holidays. Depending on who you are, what you got going on, I wouldn't suggest there has been some issues and some things. So it's a learning process for me, you know. But I've been able to have some really beautiful relationships with some of these people. And even the business that I run, after one of me and my sponsees went through the work, we opened up a business together. I wouldn't say that I got sober for the cash and prizes, but some really cool things have manifested as being part of the sober community. And it's something that I realized I thought it was like a one day at a time, and I'm like looking all through the book, and I know it's not in the first 103, I tell you that. But this is something I have to do for my lifetime. This is something that I have to chase this daily reprieve on the spiritual plane, and when I don't, I can tell you what it looks like when I don't. When I don't hit those knees in the morning and then I'm driving down the road and someone cuts me off, oh, there is nothing besides four-letter words twirling around in here. When I start my day from a place of quiet, and I take it to God and just ask God, where am I supposed to be at today? What am I doing? Who am I encountering? It's none of my business. Put the right people and give me the right words to say in my life today. And then that person cuts me off. I'm like, oh man, they're in a rush, or that's a nice car. It's like a completely different mindset for me. And but
About
that works.
5 minutes, Chris.
Thank you. That works with everything. How I view disciplining my children. There has to be some suspense for them because I don't discipline them right away. They do something, I'll tell them, hey, we're gonna have a talk later. And then really what I'm saying is I need to buy some time to pray on this because I'm like, I don't know what to do with these babies sometimes. And as they get older, does anyone got teenage daughters? Oh man. They're all cute and little, and you put bows in their hair, and then one day they're dating boys. And some of those boys are bringing beers around your house. And dad keeps a shovel and an auger nearby. And it's like, oh man. For like a month, I just diarrheaed in the rooms, like, oh, I don't know what to do with my kid. I know what to do now. I take it to God, and God has no grandchildren. God will take care of my daughter like he took care of me because we raised her right. She's like me, so she has to learn. There's two kind of people in this world. There's people that learn by listening, and people learn by experiencing. Unfortunately, my daughter is just like me. She's an experiencer. And I don't have to drink over it. I don't have to treat her badly over it. I don't have to slander her to all the rest of the family, but I just love her up the best I can. And for my son, I don't know, he's a freak of nature. He just does everything like correctly. I don't know what's wrong with the kid. I think I told him a long time ago that, I'd beat the crap out of him, and I was bluffing, so he just behaves. And my little daughter, you can't even sit down at the table without her putting her hands up wanting to say grace for we. She knows that God changed her daddy. She doesn't remember having to run around and grab daddy beers and stuff like that, or I don't know if she remembers or not, mommy and daddy screaming and yelling at each other, but that's not part of our life anymore. And that's a gift because there's so easily I could not give myself unreservedly to God. And go into my ego, like, how dare that lady use that tone with me? I worked all day, I'm tired. That's the biggest thing, right? I'm always tired. So I want to do things on my time when I feel like doing them. Well, what if I just ask God right now to like what to do about that situation? Just get up and do what I'm being asked to do real quick so I can appease my partner and have a peaceful night. You know, what if I'm really nervous to bring up a subject, but I'm able to ask God for the courage and I'm able to bring it up in such a loving, beautiful manner that we can discuss things on an adult level and come to solutions that work for both of us in our marriage. When all else fails, it's I have God to go to, and I didn't realize that. I have 100% dependence upon God, not the meetings, not the program, not my sponsor, on God. Because this program told me that I'm beyond human aid. And so if I'm beyond human aid, then really, why do I put so much trust in the fellowship and other things like I did in the past? Maybe that was the reason why I kept failing, because I didn't know there was such thing as a connection to all of you until I truly felt it. And so when the book says having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I never understood that until I felt that connection. I felt that community spirit, that love between all of us. My name is Chris. Thank you for letting me share.